Good morning, everyone. Welcome to all who are worshiping online with us at all of our sites. Glad that we're together. If you're a guest today, we're especially glad that you're here. If I could address the elephant in the living room before I go any further, it would be helpful because I know what you're thinking. Joel, that's quite a shirt you're wearing today. Well, and I know this because when I came in this morning, the first 20 people that greeted me said, Joel, that's quite a shirt you have on today, or something about my shirt. And I go, I don't want my clothes to call attention, but I go, it's just going to be one of those days. I want you to know it was a gift from my daughters, and I'm affirming them. That's why I'm wearing it today. So anyway, if you're a guest today, you're actually the center of attention in terms of the message that I want to give to our whole church family. Now, don't be nervous about it. I'm not going to have you stand out. I'm not going to call you out in any kind of way. But I want to come into this message today with a question for you as guests. Why are you here? You may be here because you're visiting a family. You might be out of town. Just it's a stop by. You're here for just the Sunday. You might be here because you're looking for a new church home and you're Bush Lake or here in this community, or looking for a new home and wondering if this might be it. Or perhaps you're here because a friend invited you to come and you said yes. Well, churchgrowth.org did a survey and had on it a question: how do people start attending church? The number one answer: friends. Astonishing. 86% of people who attend a church for the first time do so because of an invitation from a friend. The power of a simple invitation is what I want to give energy to, because I think we are stepping into the reality of who God is. God is the big I, the big inviter. And he purposed for me and for you to be people who give invitations as he gives them to us. Now, this question is for all of us, not just guests. I'm going to have you raise your hands and your response to it. How many of you know someone who used to attend church in your sphere of influence but no longer do for one reason or another? Just raise your hand. Yep. And I'm assuming at Bush Lake and our other sites, we're seeing the same. Almost everybody raises their hand. There are people who have never gone to church and people who have gone to church and have left for various reasons. I came across this research project done by Lifeway Research and Barna, two different groups with the same conclusions, and the results were a bit stunning. 82% of those who do not attend a church would be somewhat likely to attend if they received a personal invitation from a friend. Wow. In light of today's cultural perspective of churches and Christianity, it was surprisingly high to me. And then even more so was the statistic that 25% would be very likely to say yes to come back to church and give it another try, or come for the first time if they were invited by a friend, not a stranger. The power of a simple invitation would cause them to say yes. This is an extraordinary study to me, and really filled with hope. And yet the discouraging part of it in the same study was the opportunity is there, obviously, but less than 2% of those they surveyed have ever invited anyone to church. Less than 2%. So if God is the great inviter and we're called to be great inviters as well, what happened along the way? That's what I want to give my energy to, with the hope that we would become inviters. In fact, my message today is when you invite someone to church, it has the power to bless their life and perhaps change their life forever. And it's not that I'm giving that much credence to church in and of itself, because we know churches aren't the primary life changers. Jesus is the life changer. But we also know that Jesus Christ is the one who birthed the church. It was his idea, not mankind's idea. And as a result of that, he has ordained the church to be the means to accomplish his holy purposes, to bring blessing upon blessing upon blessing into your life and through you to the people whom you intersect with every day. And so we have this beautiful picture that Jesus knew the power of invitation. He was the master of invitation, not just when he walked the face of the earth, but now. He's always inviting. He invited people to come and see. And his simple invitation blessed their lives and changed their lives forever. I'm personally getting caught up in it. I'm going to invite you to take out your teaching notes. We're going to look into this power of a simple invitation. It's inside of your program if you want to follow along that way. I'm being bitten by this concept myself over the last month. I've been inviting people to come to Westwood, whether that be at Bush Lake or whether that be here on our Chan site, but I'm inviting them boldly and gently to come. So I've invited 3 people, and all have said yes. And I know what you're thinking. Well, you're the pastor. Of course they're going to say yes. But can I tell you something? The fact that I'm a pastor is exactly why they would say no. You think about it. The pastor and the role of the pastor represents a lot of different things for people. And the fact that I'm saying you've got the advantage, not me. But I got 3 yeses, not right away. In fact, one of them I got was a hesitant yes, but it was just a very cool story. And he gave me the permission to tell you the story, so I'm going to do that. It's really just neat how God works in and through things. One of my very closest friends, about a year and a half ago, told me about it. One of his closest friends, whom I had never met before, but was going through a health struggle. And would I be willing to give a call or have a connection with him and just talk a little bit about that journey? I said, I'd be glad to do that. So we started calling each other, talking on the phone and texting each other. For the last year and a half, honestly, I'm underestimating. We've had over 50 conversations via telephone or texting. We've gotten to be very close friends, which, you think about on social media, there's all kinds of fake friends. This is real. It's a real, sincere friendship. I'm so grateful for it. And at the beginning of the summer, he says to me, we've got to meet. And I have felt the same thing. We just need to do it. But it's amazing, isn't it, how hard it is with calendars? And we couldn't find a time to meet. And then a month ago or so, I had this aha moment. Well, this might be a convenient way to do it. Because we met over health issues, I said, listen, I'm doing a 2-part series on healing at our church at Westwood. Would you be open to come and visit Westwood and worship together with us, and then we'll have lunch following? And he said, well, let me think about that. And he took some time, thought about it, came back to me, and he said, yeah, I'm going to come. And he came for one of those healing services. And we had a rich time at lunch and got to know each other even more so on a deeper level. I learned things about him that I didn't know. I think when you're face-to-face, you go into deeper places, and that's what happened. He's a little bit older than me, but shared with me that he has not been in church since he was 23. He grew up in a church, had influence of faith, but was at the university, heard a lecture related to the Crusaders and the violence, and wanted to know the Christian influence. Was it true? He spoke with the prophet. They said it validated this was the way of the Crusaders. So he called his priest and said, is this true? And he got confirmation this was the way of the Crusaders. He said, I want nothing to do with this religion or Christianity, and walked away at that point from the church. Has only been in church for weddings and funerals, but not for a worship service since then. And we talked about the service that we had here that day, and he shared with me that he was deeply moved by it. And he said something I'll never forget. He said, throughout the course of the years of my life, I call myself a truth seeker. And this morning, I think I found truth. The power of a simple invitation can bless a person's life and perhaps forever. And so we're called to be inviters. So let's take a look at this simple invitation and what it means to invite people back into a church experience. Why is an invitation so effective? Well, I think there are several reasons. First of all, an invitation is personal. It comes because of existing relationship. And relationships matter. Relationships offer credibility and trust. And so a friend invites you to coffee and you say yes more than no because there's a friendship there, there's credibility. Or a gal invites a guy out for a date, or a business person invites a client out for lunch, or a family invites another family to go bowling. And oftentimes you would see a yes far more than a no on the basis of relationship, because relationship matters. Invitations are about relationships. And secondly, an invitation makes us feel included. You're inviting me. That's what we say on the inside. It's so wonderful to be included. And whether you can go or not, it is a gift. And when you're invited to a party, your friend has already decided that they want your presence in that place. And that feels good, to be included. And an invitation, thirdly, is specific. Carrie and I are not big Minnesota State Fair people. We go particularly for a couple food items, and that's our primary motivation. But we go typically every other year or every third year. This was an off year. We had no intention of going, and I'll be honest that there was nothing about the ads related to the Minnesota State Fair, seeing all the news broadcasts done on the State Fair that felt like a personal invitation to us. We weren't going to go until we got a call. A call that gave us a specific invitation on a Friday night to go to the State Fair for a specific purpose, a birthday. And we were in. Because the power of an invitation does that. And it's the same with church. It's personal. It makes people feel included. And when it's specific, it's clear and people can respond to it. And that's what we're called to do. I think to ask one simple little question, would you like to come to church with me on Sunday? We can do that. I can do that. You can do that. We can all do that. Everyone can. And then we get to give the response or see the response and then navigate that way forward from there. So I want to ask this question and help you ask it more effectively when you actually invite people to come to church, because that's ultimately what I'm encouraging you to do. I just want to give you first some insights as to why it is some people don't come to church, because it might be helpful when this issue comes up. This comes from research. I've taken the top 3. I've seen 10, 12. There's all kinds of reasons. These are the top 3. The number one reason people say they don't come to church is, I'm too busy. And that makes total sense, doesn't it? We live in a rapid-paced reality world today. And for some people, Sunday is their only time to breathe. And we just need to breathe because, man, life is a full-court press. I just need that extra morning to sleep in, have that cup of coffee, take my time before I have to go face the day. All of us get that. It makes total sense to us in the journey. And yet the reality is we know that God is the one who's given us the need for rest. He's the one who took one of the days that got created and called it to be a day of rest because he knew we needed a day to breathe. So it's an important aspect of who God made us to be. He knows that we live in a fast-paced, high-tech, high-stressed world, and by the end of the week, quite honestly, many of us are just flat-out brain dead or sleep-deprived. And I know that because Sundays follow Saturday nights, and I see you. I can tell, believe it or not, because I'm not a communicator who likes to speak over people. I look right into your eyes and I go, oh, I had a long night last night, did you? Along the way. But we long for rest and recreation. But that longing comes from God. And he made a provisional clause in it as well. And it's an important one for us to pay attention to. Let me liken this with a simple analogy. I had a friend invite me some time ago, not that long ago actually, but to join a fitness club. And I thought to myself, like, why would you do that? Why? I mean, it costs money. You have to work very hard, you sweat all the time. And then you feel like you have to go all the time to justify the money that you're spending. I go, why would you do that? He would not let me go. He goes, this will be good for you. You need this, Joel. And I finally yielded, and he came with me. I was with him almost all the time when we first started going, and I'm glad that he introduced me into that practice. Right now, I'm trying to swim 5 days a week. I didn't realize swimming is so hard. But as you get older, your bones just don't respond to running and other things quite as well. So I'm swimming, and I'm learning. But you know, it's interesting. As I've made it a priority to be present, I've stepped into learning new practices, like how to breathe when you swim. It's much more difficult than what you think when you look at it. It looks so easy. And I'm starting to enjoy it. And not only that, my body likes it. It's beneficial to my body. And I think it's the same when we look into the reality of the church. It's kind of like going to a gym. It's hard to make it a priority, but once we do, we discover there are new practices. We all grew up in different kinds of faith orientations, or maybe no faith orientation at all, and how you quote-unquote do church is different, and it can be a little bit awkward. It takes some time to learn those new practices along the way. But once we do, we start to see a great enjoyment in the experience of being together. And we see that our soul benefits in great ways. Your soul loves it. And your soul becomes the fuel for everything in your body and in your life. That's the reality of what Jesus reminds us of in this journey. Matthew 6:33 says, seek first the kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. Let the main priority in your life be the kingdom and his righteousness, God, because he becomes the regulator that helps you manage the rest of your world so that you can really have rest and recreation in a way that's honoring to him and helpful to you. He intended it to be a priority. It's good for our soul. The second most common reason that people don't go to church anymore is that they think church is boring. And there's, I think, different reasons. There's reasons past, paradigms of experiences perhaps in our childhood or whatever. You've heard people say, I've been to church, the hymns were dull, the prayers were rote, the preaching was dreary. So that's the paradigm that can be there. And it goes with them in their life because no one wants to be bored. No one does. And we get that. And yet there are reasons that are present realities for us that feed this issue of boring as well. I think the effect of social media is a great contributor to part of the challenge of staying engaged today because it's impacted our attention span so profoundly. And in less than 1 decade, the variation is astonishing. Today, our attention span is 8 seconds. Now, for a guy who speaks for 25 to 30 minutes, and you realize social media has you popping in and out, so we're looking for the next best thing, the most interesting thing. It's just captivate my heart, my mind, my body, my soul all the time. It's going this way all the time. You can see it's difficult. How do you communicate for 25 to 30 minutes in a way that captures attention? Because we're thinking about everything else. We're singing songs that are 3.5 minutes long, et cetera. And by the way, can I tell you, in my research, I learned that goldfish have an attention span of 9 seconds. A second more than us. I mean, This is us. We're just going from one thing to the next. I mean, learn from the goldfish. We can do better. We can do better. Honestly, it's a contributor. But I just want to say something that's, I think, really important for us because, you know, when raising our kids, there's an axiom. For people who have been at Westwood, they've heard me say this. I have certain things, axioms that I repeat all the time because I think they're so important. And this was with my children. My children get annoyed with me saying it, but now they're starting to have their own kids. I love this, and they're using the same thing that I gave to them. My axiom is this, that boredom is the result of an inactive mind. So when my kids would keep coming, Dad, I'm bored, like I'm the entertainment director on the ship of Johnson life. No, I'm not. So my response always and consistently has been, boredom is the result of an inactive mind. Activate your mind, and boredom will dissipate. Daddy, what does it mean to activate your mind? Great question. Let me tell you what it means. This is a great thing to bring to your children. Teach them to not depend on you to be the cruise ship director of entertainment for your life. Engage their minds and their bodies in ways, because that's why we get bored along the way. And as a result of just saying that, the Bible tells us that the crowds were amazed when they encountered Jesus. They were captivated by his presence. They were just blown away by his teaching. They couldn't get enough of him. And I realize, none of us are at the standard of Jesus, but I can tell you on behalf of our whole team at Westwood, we invite people because Jesus is ultimately interesting. He captivates your heart, your mind, your body, and your soul. And he is utterly enjoyable as your heart gets awakened to his presence in your life. There is no joy deeper or greater than knowing the presence of the Lord in your life. And our team, as we come to serve, whether it's here teaching, whether it's in the parking lot guiding, whether it's the hospitality team or the people volunteers serving our children, I'm just telling you straight out, we are captivated and in love with Jesus Christ because he is not dead. He is alive. He's ultimately interesting and enjoyable. We will give our best to you, and you can have the confidence we will give our all with all elements of how we serve. You can have that confidence when people come. We will seek not to be bored. Does that mean I won't have a moment where I've totally bored you? I know that I do. I see your eyes again. And I don't know. I start going this way. This is the problem. As the services go on, I get longer because I think of things. Like, I'm going to give you a secret. When I'm communicating, because I'm looking into your eyes, occasionally I'll find somebody who I think are in spiritual meditation, and then I soon learn they're in a the spouse is going like this. So here's my practice. When I stop and I stare at someone, I'm going to choose you over here. Thanks for having your eyes open. I'm just going to use you as an example. No shame here, but I grab eyes, and I'll keep speaking until you look at me. And then when you awaken and back with me, then I'm good. We're gone. We move to the next thing. One of my secrets, so you just got the cherry on top. Not everybody else got that. But Okay, let me keep moving here because I'm totally distracted. But you get this idea. We don't want to be boring. We want to give our best. The third is I don't know what to expect. I just think all of us, when we show up to a place that's new, we don't know what to expect. We don't know where to go sometimes. We don't know what our behavior should be. So meet people, greet people, help them. If you're at Bush Lake or here at the Chan site, give a tour of the space and they get somewhat familiar with it. Introduce them to people so the faces can be a little bit more familiar along the way. It gives people a sense of confidence to move in that direction. Let me just pause for a moment because this is why people don't come to church. I get that, but why don't we invite them? How could it just be 2%? That's been bothering me. Of course, there was no research on this one, so I just had to stop and pause about it, and some answers came to mind, and I think these are some of the reasons why. One, I just don't think about it because my life is as busy as the next person. So now I'm inviting you to stop and think about it. Identify 4 people in your life right now, and if the statistics are true, 1 in 4 are very likely to say yes to an invitation. 82% are somewhat likely. So just think about that even now. Just stop along the way. Let that become part of a practice. Another reason is I don't want to offend them. And in light of just the toxicity of our culture, religion is one of those lightning rods. So we're hesitant to go there. But if you do it with gentleness, typically it opens up a door of dialogue, not a rage of fire. It's as much how we enter into the invitation. Or another one that strikes me as possible is it could change our relationship, and I kind of like my relationship as it is. So let me give you the caveat to that. When God is present in a relationship, it makes the relationship better than any other relationship you could have. Don't let what is keep you from what could be in relationship. And then sometimes it's a mindset that we bring that says, it would be foreign to them. If you knew the friends that I have in my life that don't attend church, they would never go. I mean, there's no way. You should hear them talk. You should see the things that they do in their life. But then I'm mindful of this all the time. This is a frequent thing. I'll get an invitation to go to something, and somebody will come to me and say, I was going to give you an invitation to do this or to do that, but I know your life is so busy right now, so I just didn't want to put that before you. And my response always is, let me say no. Don't say no for me. Let me be the one. It will open up door for dialogue as to what that no might be all about. So these are some of the reasons. Probably the biggest one for me is the fear of rejection, that we might get a no. We don't like that. But I think if we just have common sense, we know that the no is not a personal no to who you are. It might be a no to attend church for the specific date you have. Maybe later they'll be open to it. Right now they're not ready to. It's just a no. It's not a personal thing. Don't take it so personally. We were together with our family, and our younger daughter shared something with us we never knew before. She's just turned 30, and we were just kind of taken back by the story. We were just talking about history and family experiences and all of that. And she shared the journey. I think she said she was in 3rd grade. It was in elementary school. And the effect that a moment had on her when in school they had to do square dancing. Remember those days in elementary school? But the teachers had the girls go ask the boys for the dance. So she went to a boy and asked if he would dance, and he said no. And it scarred her. All these years later, that no she took personally. Now, on this side of it, we can look at that and go, well, if you understand a 3rd grade boy, you know that a 3rd grade boy doesn't want to dance with a 3rd grade girl, no matter how beautiful she is. And yet, at the moment, we take it personally, when rarely is it personal. And yet, I think about it in the ways of God. God gives us this invitation to dance with him. All of us, no matter what stage or season that we're at, when we're young, when we're old, he's inviting us to dance. And think how many times we say no to him. And he keeps coming. He keeps inviting, because this is God. He's the great inviter. He keeps coming, even in the midst of our no's. Don't assume today's no is not tomorrow's yes. We want to be present in it. The people who encountered Jesus became inviters. And it's why the Church of Jesus Christ, in those first 3 centuries, it just took off. Because when you encountered Jesus, it was so real, it was so dynamic, it was so life-transforming. You wanted others to experience the same thing. It wasn't, it's church time. No, this is lifetime. And you invite people into that profound experience. This is the reality of it when you think about that advance of the church. Andrew invited Peter to meet Jesus in John 1. He found first his own brother Simon and said to him, "We have found the Messiah," which translated means Christ, and he brought him to Jesus. And Jesus looked at him and said, "You're Simon, the son of John. You shall be called Cephas," which is translated Peter. Think about this. Wow. It was a compelling invitation. There was enthusiasm. It was sincere, authentic, and real. And there was profound life transformation in the moment of the encounter. His name gets changed. His identity is forever changed. Oh, the power of a simple invitation. Or Philip invited Nathanael to meet Jesus. And again, in John 1:44, Philip found Nathanael and said to him, "We have found him of whom Moses in the law and also the prophets wrote, Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph." Nathanael said to him, "Can any good thing come out of Nazareth?" Philip said to him, "Come and see." Some of the mindset of the people that you're asking is, could any good thing come out of church? Oh yeah, come and see what God will do in and through it. And then the Samaritan woman who encountered Jesus at the well, undone by the experience, runs back to the whole village. So the woman left her water pot, went into the city and said to the men, "Come, see a man who told me all the things that I have done. This is not the Christ, is it?" They went out of the city and were coming to him. It's a picture of the contagion that happens when we come together and the beauty that you want other people to know. And so they come. We see that many people came to know Jesus by the way of a simple invitation. And so it is today. It's the primary way today, is God works through you and me to give simple invitations that can bless a person's life and maybe change them forever. Well, let's just put it to work. Let me just give you a few simple tips quickly around giving an invitation. First of all, an invite to be discerning. That is, you can invite anytime, but there are certain times where you really want to seize the opportunity. When people are in transition, when new things are happening, if they have a new marriage or a new child, or if they have a new home, the power of new is an amazing thing. If they're going to school, this is a great time right now to be inviting a new season of life. Or when people are under tension because God uses pain and sorrow, transition, when there's a divorce or the death of a loved one, or when you're going through a time of stress or unsettledness, uncertainty and anxiousness, or unemployment or financial. These things make the heart long for islands of stability. And the church represents Jesus, who is the island of stability. Be discerning. Secondly, be specific. Avoid saying, "You should come to church with me sometime," because it's ambiguous. It's like, we should have lunch sometime, and then 2 years later we see each other and go, "We never did have that lunch, did we?" You know, those general statements are good intent but lack any substance. When you aren't specific, it's just easy for people to be agreeable and then to forget. But someday rolls off into other days, sometimes years ahead. But Sunday comes every 7 days. Frequently. There's all kinds of opportunity to invite people, so invite them, and then get real specific around it in terms of times. We have 4 services, a lot of options: 8:15, 9:30, 11 o'clock, 5 o'clock, at least on the Chan site, and then the Bush Lake site has 2 services. And be specific with the times as we invite them. In fact, we're doing a new series next week, 9 weeks long. It's called Reset, Finding a Fresh Start, because of the changing season. We're going to look at 9 different topics where we could use a fresh start. And our team created a coaster for you. And the coaster is just simply a picture of the series, giving you a tool in your hand wherein you can be specific as you invite people forward to grab an invite. So you can pick those up as you leave today. They're available to you. And then third, be available. I've already talked about your presence, to be a familiar face. And then finally, be persistent. That is, extend the invitation more than once. If you get a no, there may be a yes later. Be like God, who keeps coming and coming and coming and inviting. Do it gently and wisely. God will bless it. Jesus knew the power of a simple invitation. He was the big I, the big inviter. He gave so many invitations. 4 of them stand out to me profoundly. 3 I'm going to elevate here, and then 1 in a prayer. First, as we come to the table, he gives the invitation to come. It's his invitation first and foremost. John the Baptist saw him coming, and John stood up and told the 2 guys that were with him, "Look, behold the Lamb of God." And the text says that they chased after Jesus and said, "Where are you going?" And this is how he responded. He says, "Come along and see for yourself." This invitation, come along and see. This is what he's doing. Come. He's always inviting us to come. He gives an invitation to follow in Mark 1:17. Come follow me, Jesus said, and I will send you out to fish for people. Come, he says, I have a purpose for your life. Follow me. I'm going to make clear your purpose. Third, and my favorite here, he gives the invitation to rest. Matthew 11:28, Jesus says, come to me, all you are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Did you notice the invitation is for all? This is our God. He invites us all to come. And did you notice that he defines our condition as burdened? That's the truth. We all have burdens. We carry anxiety and guilt and shame. We face hard circumstances and difficult people, and he knows it and he gets it. It is the burdened whom he invites to come. And when we do, we hear his gentle, loving voice say to us, come to me and rest. Oh, we need to rest. And he gives a surge of life. He offers to lift our burden. How marvelous it is. So we come to the table to rest, to find this beautiful invitation to follow the living Christ. And as we come, I invite you to pray with me. The ultimate invitation, Lord, is the invitation to life and to live. You say, if anyone is thirsty, let him come to me and drink. Whoever believes in me, as the scriptures has said, streams of living water will flow from within him. We all want to live, and you are the one who gives life. So we come to this table and we eat the bread knowing it represents your presence, the incarnation, Jesus living in our backyard, Son of God, Savior of our souls. And the cup, when it comes to our lip, reminding us that our sins are forgiven, that we're free. So we come with gratitude. And if there be anyone here who has been away from a long time from your presence, may they eat and drink, yielding and surrendering their lives to you anew. To your glory we pray. Amen.